Unless you've been hiding under a rock for the last couple of days, you know that there's probably a Nintendo Direct happening next week. Not even probably, it's about a 97% chance of happening. Almost every single source has said this is happening, and even Nate the Hate himself has concluded that yep, next week is the week. Now, we even had other sources like Jeff Grubb state that this is going to happen on Tuesday, which is super soon, which means we're probably also going to get one major reveal that we definitely already know about, once again, thanks to Nate the Hate, which is the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Remake. This has been one of the most anticipated games since the rumors have started years ago, and for a while now we've been speculating what this game could be like. So today, right before this Nintendo Direct, I want to get off every possible change that I think should come to the Ocarina of Time Remake. Now, I've even personally prepared for this, so I went back and recently 100%ed the original game on the Nintendo 64, and then also 100%ed the remake on the 3DS, just to get a clear mind as to exactly how each of the dungeons, each of the bosses, and each area work, so that way I can find the best things that they could add to this game on a fresh memory. So I really hope this remake is true, because I just wasted so much gameplay 100%ing the game twice. Now, before we dive into all these possible changes, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe on today's video, because we are still trying to reach our goal of 400,000 subscribers, and we are getting super close. You guys can make that happen today, and you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned here, because next week is going to be crazy, and we're going to be covering it all here with live streams and even post videos. But thank you guys so much, and let's dive into the changes that we could get in Ocarina of Time's remake. So this first batch of changes is focused on small quality of life changes, things that are not going to affect the major game too much, so let's jump into it. I think having voice acting would be really cool. For instance, when Malin is singing, you can actually hear her sing maybe lyrics to Epona's song, or straight up just characters having voice acting instead of dialogue boxes would be pretty cool. I don't know how everybody would feel about this, but personally, I think it'd be great to have a matching voice for each person in this game, and I think it would match games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and better tell the story by just having, you know, more cutscenes with focused on voice acting. I think that'd be great. I know this is a strange one, but giving us the opportunity to catch more bugs in a jar, because right now you catch technically 3 bugs in one jar, but as soon as you empty it, all the bugs empty. And then you got to go back and find more bugs in more locations, so it would be great if maybe we could release 1 bug at a time, because it can be tedious to waste your jars on just 1 bug drop, or go back to the original game where it allowed you to drop some bugs and pick some up while it still brought out that Skulltula for you in each of the seed spots. As much as I played this game now, I remember all day and night spawns for the Skulltulas, but I kind of hope that in the remake they decide to just let the Skulltulas be out in both day and night, and maybe even child and adult, and if you can't reach it as a child, you just come back as an adult. That would be a lot better, but at least day and night, so that way you don't have to unlock that sun song just to hunt for golden Skulltulas or go back to past areas at a specific time of day. Yes, it would kind of ruin the sun song and the whole purpose of it, but I feel like they can bring that purpose to something else, like maybe day and night cycles for characters and NPCs as they go in and out of their houses and do different things. Maybe there's new side quests with the sun song instead, but yeah, the Skulltulas in a day and night cycle was just annoying to deal with, and it's going to be for new players for sure. I hope this time the entire world is one interconnected open world, and by that, yes, I still want the game to be linear the way it was always, but this time there's no load screens. There's no load screens going into houses or into a new village or anything like that, or a new location. You simply just walk into it. So that way the day and night cycle also always is active instead of it being dormant in the middle of you being in a certain area or a certain city. It'd also be cool to be able to take Epona into certain areas, like you can take her into Gerudo Town and Gerudo Valley, but you can't take her into Kakariko, which is very strange. So that would be cool. I feel like the day and night cycles need to be longer. Yes, you can get the sun song relatively early in the game, but still, it feels like it's already nighttime by the time you get to the castle for the first time. And it's just like, yeah, I feel like these cycles should be a slight bit longer, which shouldn't be an issue. Some other things that would be cool is to have weather, like maybe every now and then it rains, or maybe even gets a thunderstorm above you, or just cloudy overcast. That'd be pretty cool, because the only way to get that is if you play the Song of Storms right now, but also having the time somewhere on screen would be great, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom does, especially for some of those small side quests that has you returning to an area at a specific time. It's not a major deal in this game like it is in something like Majora's Mask, but still, it would be nice. Now, the menus in the original game were infamously bad. I mean, you had to keep pausing the screen every time in order to equip something, especially in the dang water temple. That was awful. Now, this was made a lot easier in the remake on the 3DS because you now had a whole second screen in order to tap the icons for yourself. And this is why games like Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD worked really well in the Wii U. But we don't have the second screen this time around, so they're going to have to come up with a unique way to have our items on screen, which they could just do a wheel again like they did in Skyward Sword. Or just something similar. Something that often bothered me so bad is finding a secret area full of Deku scrubs, and these dens having nothing of value to them. You'll find a super well hidden one that you'll have to either play the Song of Storms or drop a bomb for, or just some other type of obscure thing, just for it to be full of 2 or 3 Deku scrubs that offer you extreme prices for basic things that you can find anywhere in the overworld, like bombs or arrows or Deku nuts, which you already don't use at all. So yeah, they need to have better rewards here, whether it be more rupees or some type of new collectible in this game, because daggone it, it's just so not worth it, and it's every time I fall into a den and see these things, I just leave. Like arrows for 70 rupees? I don't even have the bow yet! This one's a bit picky, but there's a couple of rooms where things revert back to the way they were after you moved some blocks around or something just because you left a room for a second. That could be an easy fix, but yeah, it was just something I found annoying if I moved a block for easy access up to another part and then come back and that block is back up there for some reason. I found this especially noticeable with the cuckoos. I mean, I guess this is a way for them to reset if you mess them up, but yeah, there was a lot of times I left some in a certain area, I accidentally went into a door, and then all the ones I brought down from a hill or something all went back to where they were supposed to, and I'm like, dang it. The button prompts need to be way better in this game. Like seriously, it sucks sometimes just to do basic things like jump on a ledge or just pick something up. Like it will not pick up things when you want them to, especially the cuckoos. I found so many problems with this in both versions of the game where just trying to pick something up is so awkward and you have to be in the perfect spot for the context button to allow you to do the thing that you're trying to do. I got so frustrated in so many attempts, like I'm slamming A right here. And I also noticed this problem with trying to open doors. You have to wait for the context button to say open before you can actually press the A button and open the door. So a lot of the times I found myself just rolling and bumping my head on doors. There's definitely small fixes that need to happen when it comes to just certain scenes happening the way that they're supposed to or triggering right. For instance, playing Epona's song did not work for me a lot of times in both versions of the game, and I thought I was doing something wrong. My memory wasn't serving me right from when I played it as a kid, but nope, you just have to be in very specific spots to get things to work right. For instance, just learning Epona's song, no matter how many times you pull out the ocarina or even lock in, you have to be in this certain area for some reason for it to work. And this happens sometimes with the scarecrow locations as well. You have to be at a very specific part of a ledge in order to get them to spawn. But this is a super small quality of life change that I'm sure will be fixed. There's one thing that I'm sure we all remember from both games is that when you unlock a door or a chest appears in a room, Link's head will spin around and his whole body will spin around to face that unlocked door or that chest. Yep, it's one small change that easily can be fixed, but it's just goofy, even though it is a classic. Now, we'll be including some that you guys have commented as well, but one thing that you guys said was incredible music remixes, which, yeah, it's got to have some really good music remixes because unfortunately the 3DS version was pretty much the same exact music. Having a fully orchestrated soundtrack would be so good. Hearing that intro play for the first time, fully orchestrated, would literally give me goosebumps, or running across Hyrule Field, hearing that orchestrated Hyrule Field theme would just be beautiful, man. There's also a lot of areas in the game that doesn't quite have original music that would just play like a traditional den or dungeon theme, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, for instance, going inside of Gerudo Town should have an original theme, so maybe adding some new themes in some areas would be great as well, because it just plays like ambient sounds like you entered a cave or something. Or for another example, Death Mountain just plays the Hyrule Field theme, and they could actually just play the Death Mountain theme from Link to the Past, or the same thing with Lake Hylia, they could just pull the song from Twilight Princess, which was a beautiful song. Emilia has some good ideas. For one, you could have a fire reference when Child Link pulls a sword for the first time, where maybe it just glows the same way it did in Tears of the Kingdom, just to let you know, like, yep, this still is a connected universe from Skyward Sword still, which is always great to hear. She also said it'd be cool to have the Majora's Mask flips when you jump, which were like these really cool side flips that Link can do. Bring those back, that would be great. And also, she jokes, but kind of serious, better Dompe RNG. Thankfully, I had extremely good RNG my second time. Not the first one though, it took me all full 15 turns to pull a heart piece, but the second time I did it on my first try somehow. As you could tell, I was shocked. One thing that I desperately want changed is the warping system, because you can only warp to the beginning of the temples while you're an adult, or if you're a kid, you can warp to the adult temples. But the problem is, they're nowhere near where you normally need to go. I cannot tell you how many times I've gone through the same process of warping to the Forest Temple just to go all the way back through the maze in order to reach the Lost Woods or Kokiri Forest. It is the worst. So literally just having the option to either warp to that temple or to the surrounding neighboring town would be so much better. I mean, seriously, one of the worst ones is getting to Zora River or even Zora's Domain or even Zora Fountain, because there's no dungeon near it. And no, you can't go to Lake Hylia and swim underneath the passage as an adult because the area is frozen. Unless there's a quicker, better method that I've just been missing all these years, I could not find one. And any method is just still going to take you out of the way instead of just warping to Zora's Domain, which should be an option. Now, this might be better if they decide to add what once was an ice dungeon but replaced with just an ice cavern. If there's an ice dungeon, you can just warp to the fountain, which would easily take us to Zora's Domain. So hopefully they add that, which we'll get to in a bit. And the last one for small quality of life changes is just better Poe hunting in the Hyrule Field area, because you have to find 10 big Poes in order to get the final bottle, which is also a stupid reward because by this time you don't really need it. But yeah, finding these Poes is a hassle without a guide. There's very particular spots on the ground that's dedicated for these Poe spawns that you must run through. And the problem is, if you run through them at the wrong angle, the Poe would just fly through a wall or something, and trying to find that spot again is just a hassle. Plus, it'd be better if there was some sort of unlockable map or something to help you find these things. Or maybe you can put multiple of them in one bottle instead of having to have one per bottle, which is annoying because you have to keep returning them. Or maybe they can make them more interesting battles where you chase them across Hyrule Field and you have to fight them in unique ways or something, like almost mini bosses. But I don't know, they need some sort of a change. Now, enough of the boring stuff. Let's jump into the bigger gameplay changes that would actually shake the game up some. Like, for instance, adding some cutscenes. I really do hope they add cutscenes to better flesh out certain scenes. Like, Ganondorf, for instance, is kind of a mystery until the end of the game. We only see a couple of scenes of him in the castle and running out of the castle chasing Zelda and Impa, so I hope we actually get more scenes of kind of where he came from, obviously being the Gerudo region, but maybe showing more of his story, maybe him pledging allegiance to the king or something, actually showing the king of this game, and just adding more cutscenes and better cutscenes when they're available. While definitely dated, the combat in this game still holds up pretty well. In fact, I think I like the combat even more than games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but still, it could use a little bit of an overhaul. Making one-on-one sword fights more than just slashing horizontally and vertically, maybe adding something like a shield parry could make this a lot more fun, or button time prompts like Wind Waker's does, having you roll around an enemy and strike them from behind, just something enough to make it more than just spamming slashes over and over and over again. It can make fights like the Shadow Link fight a lot deeper and a lot better. There's a couple of areas where you can ride Kapora the owl, but I think it'd be pretty cool if they actually allowed you to control him and maybe drop you off in certain areas, kind of making the world a little bit more open. Or they can turn these sections into a couple of mini games where you can fly through rings or something. I don't know, just adding some gameplay instead of you just watching a cutscene in first person of you flying down Death Mountain. I hope they make the fishing hole a lot bigger and better in the remake, where it's actually fun to fish. I don't know, I've never found this game's fishing that exciting or interesting compared to something like Twilight Princesses, where you're on a boat, there's different lures. It just feels like it's a lot more advanced and fleshed out than something like this. It's not bad by any means, but it definitely can use an overhaul, because catching the biggest fish sometimes can make you sit there for at least 3 to 5 minutes waiting for that fish to finally come to you. I would like to see a completely changed Castle Town, where it doesn't have this strange camera point of view from the fountain and then eventually from like the back and the front of alleyways when you walk down them. Instead, Instead, it's, you know, a regular third person behind Link camera view as you're exploring the town. There's a lot more shops, a lot more homes, and just a lot more alleyways and areas to explore. Make it a full-fledged castle town this time around. This isn't necessarily a big gameplay change, but I would love to see a post-game scene where maybe it shows a post-cut scene where it ties into Majora's Mask story, which is a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. Maybe eventually even teasing a future Ocarina of Time remake. Look at this. We are speculating a sequel to a remake that hasn't even been announced yet. But still, it'd be cool. Do it, Nintendo. I mean, the Happy Mask Salesman is already in this game, so maybe something with him would be pretty cool. I believe at one point in time, there were going to be certain other color tunics for Link to unlock and use. Now, I don't know if they were going to have different abilities, but it'd be cool if we actually had this, you know, ability to change the color of Link's tunic, kind of like we can do in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. It would still be his traditional shape and size and the way it looks, but it would just be a different color, or maybe some different color engravings and patterns and stuff. Maybe this is what some of the Deku Scrubs can sell that you can find. Each Deku Scrub that you find in each den will have a different tunic for you to purchase. Maybe each of them have their small own advantage, like one's really good at defense or offense or collecting rupees or stuff like that, or not wasting arrows when you shoot them, or I don't know, maybe giving you a bigger quiver or a bigger bomb bag. But it'd be really cool to have different colors to switch from. They have to give the Deku Nuts some actual usages, because like genuinely I don't think I ever used one of these things at all. Maybe the first and second dungeons, or maybe all first 3 dungeons when you're a child, actually have Deku Nut puzzles or something. I don't know what they would do. It's pretty much just a stun grenade, but they need to do something because there's genuinely no use for these things. And one change I could see them adding is if they don't do the auto flip and stuff from Majora's Mask, maybe they can give you a dedicated jump button this time around instead of running to the ledge and jumping. I feel like sometimes it gets weird and awkward. Sometimes you'll fall off a ledge and ledge grab it when you're meaning to just run off of it or something. I feel like it'd be much easier if we just had a dedicated jump button like in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But if it's not there, I absolutely would not mind. And we talked about better rewards earlier, but yeah, they definitely need a better one than just a 200 rupee for collecting all 100 golden Skulltulas. Like, what's the point? You probably can't even care anymore. You're at the end of the game probably when you get all of these Skulltulas, and you've pretty much bought everything. So this is just extra nothingness that you don't even get added to your wallet because you're already maxed out. So give us a proper reward, a special tunic, something like an all golden tunic, especially for the anniversary, would be so cool. Which also reminds me of another stupid reward. Why do we get the ice arrows so late in the game? Like, it's almost towards the end of the game where we get these in a secret dungeon area in the Gerudo region. What's the point? They don't really do anything besides freeze some enemies. I mean, wouldn't it have been cool if this was tied to like an ice dungeon that was supposed to be in the game? Once again, I'll get into that in a bit. But still, yeah, there needs to be a better reward in this dungeon. And the more I think about it, maybe each region has their own special unique tunic that you can find. Like maybe this one gives you a special Gerudo tunic that has a very special ability to it. Who knows? Or hear me out. One of the children actually gives you a special tunic for getting around 50 golden Skulltulas that's like a Skulltula tunic with like spider patterns all over and stuff. And it kind of makes noise or alerts you when you're near a golden Skulltula in case people really need to track them down and they can't find them. Whatever they decide to go with, this game just needs better rewards. And Zelda games in general just need better rewards because Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom also do the same thing. No, I don't want golden poop. Now for this last section, I tried to make them all drastic gameplay changes that completely change up certain sections of the game. Let me make this clear. No, I'm not trying to make Ocarina of Time not Ocarina of Time. I'm not trying to ever turn this game into something like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. It's always going to play like Ocarina of Time, but this is just going to add or completely change some areas. For instance, there needs to be more Hyrule. I want more of the castle playable, more of the sneaking section allowing us to sneak within the castle before we even get to the courtyard. Imagine sneaking down the hallways like we do in the Gerudo Fortress, where we have to hide from guards and stuff. Instead of just a small section in the courtyard and the garden, I would love a full, like, kind of stealth mission in the very beginning inside the castle as well. That would be awesome, so we can finally see the inside of a modern-day Hyrule Castle, because Nintendo won't let us do that for some reason. I'm looking at you, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, in Wind Waker, in Twilight Princess. No, seriously, why can we never go into a fully well-developed castle anymore? This is something that I will talk about in full detail once the game is actually announced, but yeah, they really need to remake the bosses. I mean, a good portion of them are truly really bad. I know a lot of them are some of the first ones in the game, but daggone it, beating Queen Goma in literally 25 seconds is just not good. Or just rinse and repeat, throwing a bomb in King Dodongo's mouth and then running and waiting for him to chase you. It's just boring. Now, there are some good ones. I think Baronade and Phantom Ganon are really well done boss battles, but then you're right back at it with Morpha. Like, seriously, this is one of the worst bosses in the entire franchise. But then there's some with really good concepts, but they're also just extremely easy, like Volvagia, where it seems like it's this crazy game of whack-a-mole, but he doesn't even attack you when he pops his head out, and it's super easy to read. And he moves so slow, I mean, it's almost impossible to take damage if you know what you're doing. And like Bongo Bongo, where I feel like it's just extremely easy to lock on and shoot the hands and then shoot the eyeball, where it feels like Wind Waker took this idea and just did it 10 times better. I feel like the main problem with the bosses is they focus primarily on one specific item and not a combination of multiple different ones that you've already unlocked, which is a problem because, yeah, you automatically know exactly what you need to do because you just use the thing that you just got. Because lots of them have great concepts but just go on for way too long, like Twinrova. I mean, there's nothing extremely challenging about sitting there and holding your shield out to deflect and absorb energy. So for most of these boss battles, I would completely change them and even add a couple of phases to them. I want to see a completely changed Hyrule field, because right now it's so strange. There's just batches of trees, bushes, and grass that just doesn't even look like it naturally belongs there. And it feels like Romani Ranch is just plopped there and, you know, blocked in by this weird rock wall. I don't know, everything about this field just feels empty to me. It's still really awesome to traverse it because it just feels all adventurous with the music playing and everything, but yeah, they definitely need to add some things, maybe even add some villages, some new towns with new townsfolk to visit, and just, you know, more things to do in the field because it's just so bland and empty, especially in today's standards. But back then, you could get away with it. Not if they decide to completely remake this game, though, in today's standards. They definitely need to add some stuff here. Something else I think they should add is like maybe a bonus extra dungeon at the end of the game for like really seasoned veterans, and it's like really difficult with really crazy fights and puzzles that really make you think. Something that's just really a test. Like Ganon's Castle, where each room is based on each of the past dungeons, could be cool. Or they could just give us a cave of ordeals like, you know, 100 floors or something like we had in Twilight Princess, and they kind of did the same thing in Breath of the Wild with all those different floors. So something like that too could be cool, really just testing the best of the best players. Did you know there was another dungeon planned for Ocarina of Time? In fact, there were two of them. The first one was a light temple. Did you notice when you turn into Adult Link, you're just granted the light medallion from Rauru without really doing anything for it? So adding this dungeon finally now, since we have better hardware, would be so awesome. Could you imagine if this was a dungeon like the Temple of Time dungeon from Twilight Princess with a Dominion Rod? Or it could be a cool dungeon just like the Spirit Temple that split into two different sections, a child version and an adult version, since this is the point of the game where you're about to turn into an adult for the first time. I mean, dude, could you imagine if the whole game itself just looked like that Wii U tech demo they did for Twilight Princess? Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. Just add a bit more color and more of the style of Ocarina of Time instead of that realism Twilight Princess style. This would be perfect. Now, we were also going to have an ice temple as well, but that never came into fruition. Maybe this is where we got the ice arrows, or this is just straight up where we got those heavy boots that also have whole dungeon puzzles dedicated to that item. That could be awesome, and also another reason to give us a new warp point so we can better get to Zora's Domain. But honestly, I feel like this area works perfectly fine as just a cavern that leads into the water temple, but I would really love an extra dungeon, or an extra two of that case if the light dungeon does work. However, this does change up the game a bit. For instance, they would have to add an extra area at the very end in Ganon's Castle for this ice temple. I mean, they already have a light temple room, so they would just have to add one more. Plus, there's already kind of an ice temple room in Ganon's Castle. It's not even water themed. It's supposed to be based off the water temple, but it's not at all. So I don't know. There's a lot of things they can change around with that if they wanted to. Now, when I first saw this comment, I thought to myself, yeah, right, okay. But the more I think about it, I still think, yeah, right, okay, because like no way Nintendo's going to do this, but man, this would actually be so cool. What if there were 3 separate endings that we can get? Because according to the actual timeline that even Nintendo put out, there is 3 different branching endings here that go into other games. The first one is the hero is defeated. Link loses the battle against Ganon, and that sends us into Hyrule's decline in the last hero timeline, which puts us in the Sealing War, from Link to the Past to Oracle Seasons and Ages, and then Link's Awakening. They could give us the Child Era, where the hero is successful but returns as a child, that then takes us into Majora's Mask and then Twilight Princess, and then there's the hero is successful as an adult, and he continues to be an adult, which leads us to Wind Waker and then Phantom Hourglass. Could you imagine if we can do slightly different things to trigger the 3 endings? Now obviously we could just lose this battle and maybe it would trigger a different end of the game. Or what if at the very end of the game, after defeating Ganon, they give us a choice where Navi's like, what do you want to do, Link? Do you want to continue as an adult or do you want to go back as a child? And you can choose, and depending on what you choose, the ending and post-credit scene would be different. Remember when I said it'd be really cool if they had a post-credit scene for Majora's Mask? Well, what if they had one for Link to the Past and also for Wind Waker, depending on the timeline that you chose? If you chose to actually lose the battle, it will have a post-credit scene that ties into Link to the Past. It would pan the camera over a destroyed Hyrule before showing the top of Link's house before going to black. Or if you win and choose to go back as a kid, it will show a scene of the happy mask salesman doing something, or something alluding to Link going on another adventure into Termina. Or perhaps after everybody's dancing and the credits roll, the camera kind of pans upward and we see the moon, and it slightly unblurs to show a slight face in the moon that teases Majora's Mask. Or we choose the option to stay an adult after we defeat Ganon, which then leads into Wind Waker, which shows us a scene of just a bunch of water. It's just a big sea, and we can see a small little red boat coming towards us in the background, which would obviously be the King of Red Lions, but just something to kind of tease these different timelines would be really cool. But I almost hope there's something like in the middle of the game that we can do that changes our experience just a little bit. Maybe it changes a certain dungeon, or it changes a certain quest that you have to do in the game, or something with the final boss battle where there's 3 completely different endings and parts of the game that you can experience, making players have to go back and replay the game 3 times to experience all of them. Something like Fire Emblem 3 Houses that gives you a reason to replay the game a bunch of times. That would also be really cool. But yeah, I only had one more thing on my list, so I'll just throw it on here at the end, where maybe the locations feel a lot different from going from past to future. Now, there's some things that are slightly different, like some of the things that happen in each of the regions, but I want a lot more. Maybe more towns are destroyed, more areas are broken and messed up, like it is in Hyrule Castle Town. Something like that could be really cool, and really show a dynamic difference between past, present, and future, or just past and future in this game at least. But yeah, it'd be really cool to have different ways to seeing different endings of this game, and just different timelines. I mean, the whole game is about time, so something like that could be awesome. But that's pretty much all I have for you right now. I wanted to get out every idea I possibly had before this thing is inevitably announced sometime next week. So let me know down below, is there any other changes that you would make? And did I make some changes that maybe you didn't like? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and Nintendo in general. And I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day. And I'll see you guys next week. I'm super excited. See you guys.